Wait, he's back?
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation, and welcome to Locked On Sooners. And thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to our everydayers. You always pull up because the podcast is free and available wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to, and here on YouTube. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that bell notification as well. That way you know when every new episode populates. Today's episode is presented by our partners over at 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixed tired fast with zero sugar and a convenient, portable size. It is perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your offer. This offer is only valid until September 30th on orders and cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. I'm your host, Jay Smith. You can follow me at Unfair Sports. My co-host, John, you can follow him at John9Williams. Take the night off to make sure he feels better so he can prepare for the game on Friday. And we've got some fun topics to talk about today. We're going to start with not burying the lead. Andrel Anthony is back. So Oklahoma just received great news in the wide receiver room. I guess you could say a little concerning news to go with it, but for the most part, we got some news that, of course, that is exciting, is that Andrel Anthony is making his valued return. Brent Venables on the SEC coaches teleconference said yesterday that Andrel Anthony is cleared to play on Friday and he's expected to hit the field, but Nick Anderson will not. Now, calm down. It's okay, Sooner fans. Let me explain kind of what that actually means and what that really means to what we're trying to get done. So Nick Anderson, we know that has been a little bit, nicked up, pun intended, and unintended all at the same time. Because he's been nicked up, he's been kind of day-to-day in practice for a bit, right? He's dealt with some hamstring stuff, and we've talked about that in the past. And so for the team, they want to take a precautionary look when it comes to going into this Temple game. No need to play Nick, if you want me to be absolutely honest. We shouldn't have a problem. Right now, the spread is sitting at minus 43, and we're at the crib. Yeah, this game should lead Oklahoma to a pretty easy victory. Not to really, shade too much on Temple, but being realistic, Oklahoma should win this game. And so because of that, there's no real reason to have Nick Anderson playing in this game. But the good thing is Andrel Anthony gets the opportunity to get some more game reps in, some actual game reps. As y'all know, for the uninitiated, Andrel Anthony got hurt right in the Texas game, right? In that game, he had 5 catches for 42 yards, and he was starting to look like he was about to, have yet another breakout game. Even coming from there, he had 2 games that were consecutive of 100-yard games. Iowa State keyed in on him like crazy, and he only ended with 1 catch, but we still won the game 50-20. And so there's tendencies where he will be a decoy. There's tendencies where he'd be the main guy. But we were all wondering who was going to take over last season, and he ended up emerging as that dude. So we expected in the trajectory that he was on, he should have gotten at least 800 yards in receiving, if not more, with, a few touchdowns to go along with it. Unfortunately, he got that ACL tear. And since he's been out, the anticipation was that he was going to be done until Tennessee. And seeing that he'd be done until Tennessee, everybody's like, okay, conference play, great. That means that we'll be fine. We should be good to go. Well, then the more concerns started coming down the line, right? You saw an injury from Nick Anderson being nicked up. Jaden Gibson, one of your bright up-and-coming players, he gets injured. And so then from there, he's done for the year. The concerns was, Jalil Farouk's out, Nick Anderson's out, Andrel Anthony's out. What are we going to do at wide receiver? Even though we do know and feel like this is the deepest room we have on the team, concerns were kind of starting to show up. People had a lot of questions. Well, now Andrel's back. Farouk is running, they said, full speed, and I anticipate he's going to potentially play as well. Brennan Thompson decided to pop off and show off, and now he's going to be your starting wide receiver. And that's the good thing about the depth chart, is that the depth chart had an or. So because it had an or, that let us know that, oh, okay, there's a chance that you're going to have a combination of both Andrel Anthony, Brennan Thompson, as well as a Nick Anderson in the game. Well, now you're not going to get that. You don't need to because, Nick Anderson's going to be out, Brennan's going to start, and then Andrel Anthony's going to come in. So what does that mean for the team going against Temple, right? Farouk should play. Based upon the way the depth chart is set, you'll have Brennan starting up there, Andrel right behind him. I'm sensing you're going to probably have somebody else as a third on that side of the ball. Probably a Zion Kearney, Ivan Carry-On. There's multiple options that you can actually go to and decide that, this is where we're going to go and make this happen. And so for Oklahoma, it's that side. And the other one you've got already set with J.J. Hester. You've got Jalil Farouk, right? And then I think Zion Kearney's the third string on the opposite side of the field. Now we're trying to figure out how this is going to play. To me, keep it a buck. I anticipate that with Brennan, with Jalil, with Burks, I see it Andrel Anthony playing additional slots. So when you go with a full wide receiver set, you can put Andrel in there at the 6'1" height, have a Jalil Farouk out there at the 6'1", 6'2" height, or you could throw in a J.J. Hester, and you can move Andrel Anthony to the outside, Brennan on the inside with the Deion Burks. There's so many combinations. The good thing is that Emmett Jones has set us up in a situation to where you truly don't need to have any concerns at wide receiver. You've got enough bodies, enough development, and enough trust in him that he's going to make something happen. So looking forward, I'm thinking against Temple, man, not only will we be super vanilla, but you're going to see all kinds of different sets just because, right? Because you can do that. By the time you get to about the third quarter, I'm sensing mid-third quarter, we should have enough of a lead. We should. That allows for you to start seeing reps from all the younger players, like Jaquez Petaway, who's right behind Deion Burks. Get some Zion Kearney, even some Ian Carry-On. You can get him out there. That would be nice to see, but there's no guarantees. But the good thing is that the way that this team is constructed, wide receiver, we don't have any concerns. So I know y'all as excited as I am, but I love to see that, Andrel Anthony is back even, what's this, roughly 10 months after that injury and surgery. So I was seriously thinking, it's Tennessee would be the safest. Maybe bring him back against Tulane, get his opportunity to just get some game reps in. But no, if he's 100% and they're saying, nah, he's ready to go, at this point, I have no reason to even complain and say, nah, no, put that man on the field. Mainly because it'll be good for him to get the reps against a team that's probably not going to be as brutal on his body as he gets towards Houston. Because I think if you look at the way the schedule is set, it feels like it's going to be more of a build-up, which is, a good thing for us. Temple, is your warm-up, getting you started. Again, no shade to them, but at the same time, look at the rankings. Houston's going to be a step up as they're doing a lot of rebuilding and getting things together. Tulane should be a little bit better than the way Houston is because, Willie Fritz actually left that program in a good place. And then from there, we start conference play against Tennessee, and then we travel to Auburn. Another thing is good is that you're all doing this at home, so you ain't got to be as concerned as you normally would if you were on the road with all these changes. I think Nick Anderson makes his valiant return late. Let's say late in, I'll say probably Houston or Tulane. I think one of those two games is when you should see a return of him. I wouldn't want to hold him off until SEC play. I'd want to get some reps under his belt before then. But, of course, I'm not the head coach. Not on the coaching staff. That's just my personal thoughts, but we'll see what happens there. So ESPN has dropped their top 100 newcomers, and some Sooners hit that list. Let's talk about it a little bit more here on Locked On Sooners. Do you ever get tired after work knowing that you got to hit the gym or to your kids' events, soccer events, school activities, or whatnot, and you're worn? I feel like that too, man. Heck, today was a very tiring day here at the workplace, and so I grabbed myself a 5-hour energy, had one in the cabinet, and thoroughly enjoyed it. It helps me to wake up and get going. It helps me get in the zone, gets me going before my workout. And now I feel a lot more refreshed, and it gives me the pick-me-up I needed without the crash. The best part about 5-hour energy is zero sugar, and the convenient portable size. It's perfect pick-me-up for me to get stuff done. And with 5 Hour Energy, they've got all the kinds of flavors from watermelon to orange to tropical bursts, great berry. I mean, I love the berry. Enjoy the orange too. Hey, y'all calm down. Don't get mad over there. But they're all great flavors or whatnot. And on their site, you can build your own 12 and 24 packs. So you can choose any flavors you like and they'll deliver it to your house. So you got to go check them out. So if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5, hourenergy.com, and want to get you some products, use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Now, this offer is valid only until September 30th on one order and cannot be used on other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So go to 5 Hour Energy, the number 5, hourenergy.com today. College football is back, and it's not too late to catch up before the season kicks off. SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, you can get it all from Locked On stable of college experts by subscribing to the Locked On College Football Podcast. Who has a chance to make the playoffs? What teams will cause chaos? I think the Sooners will. In their new conferences, and everything you need to know all in one place. Be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On College Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, ESPN dropped a top 100 newcomers list, and of course, you had a couple Sooners on there, so we've got to talk about and praise these guys. The first one that hit up there, he ended up in the top 14. The top 25 initially came out, and he was number 14 on the list, which is Deion Burks, of course. Yes. Transferring from Purdue to Oklahoma. We just talked about the wide receiver room and how excited we are about Andrel Anthony making his value return. To me, that just opened things up even more for what Deion Burks is going to be able to do this season. And so what ESPN wrote about him is Burks landed in the portal after a breakout sophomore season at Purdue that saw him record 47 catches for 629 yards and 7 scores. He arrives at Oklahoma as another new face in Oklahoma in the Sooners offense as Jackson Arnold steps up and under the center and first-year offensive coordinator Seth Luttrell takes charge. Burks is the complete wide receiver the Sooners were missing last fall after Marvin Mims Jr. jumped to the NFL, and he should be a popular downfield choice for Arnold. Now, we all know he is going to be a popular downfield option because we watched him do that in the spring game. I'm telling you, the way that Jackson Arnold was keying in on Deion Burks, it told me everything I needed to know. They're going to have a great rapport and relationship, and boy, are they going to set things out. And so you add him. We saw what he did with Brennan Thompson last season when Brennan came in and he was healthy against Arizona in the bowl game. He was able to get himself comfortable. When Jackson Arnold got comfortable as a true freshman, he sat there, boom, looked in the pocket, and blam, launched that thing, and guess what? He's hitting Brennan Thompson deep for a 60-yard touchdown. I see the same thing from Deion Burks. We saw it in the spring game. And, of course, you know, you're playing against players and your teammates and you know and have an idea of what defense sets are coming your way. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to be doing a similar thing when it comes to the opponents they play this season. I see Seth Luttrell scheming things up perfectly to where you're going to see a lot of Deion Burks and Jackson Arnold connections. I see a lot of Brennan Thompson connections with Jackson Arnold. Nick Anderson should also get... Look, I expect the ball to be spread around thoroughly while also running the ball. And so for me, seeing that Deion Burks is getting recognition from the big boys out there tells me that they knew that he was going to be a big pickup, right? Now, he's one of the top wide receivers on this list. He made top 25. He's the third wide receiver on the list outside of Isaiah Bond and Jeremiah Smith, in which Jeremiah Smith is a freshman, and we know that he's going to be pretty good over there at Ohio State. Deion Burks is not one to sneeze at, and that's why he was so high on here at 14 in the top 25 with the top 100 they talked about. Now, later on in the article, ESPN dove into some additional players. They went through big men, they went through skills guys and everything. And in that big man list, we, of course, had another player. That's right, Damonic Williams. And this is what they said about Damonic, a 27-game starter. 27 games. Man's got a lot of starts on his belt. And a 2022 national runner-up at TCU Williams transfers to Oklahoma fills a critical hole up in the middle for the Sooners this offseason. Brent Venables' defense entered the SEC down 5 upperclassmen defensive tackles from last fall. Yes, we lost a lot of players. And a 6'1", 319 Williams. Oklahoma gains needed size and experience at the position. He'll start at nose tackle next to true freshman Jaden Jackson, a 3-star signee who has earned high praise from Venables and his staff. And then former Tennessee transfer Deion Terry will feature heavily in rotation, as could 5-star freshman David Stone. Here's the thing about that. Jaden Jackson comes in at about 312. You've got Dominic Williams sitting there at, 319. Then you toss in Deion Terry at about 330, right? And then you're starting to see that we're getting to the position where Nick Saban said that we wasn't at, which is having players big enough to handle the SEC grind. Y'all know that I laugh at the thought and the notion that Oklahoma does not have players big enough to handle the SEC. It's preposterous as well as ludicrous. We've got that. We've got players. When I went through every team's rosters. I've got the numbers. I'm going to have to put together a full video to break it down, but because it's going to take more than just the next 5 minutes to do that. But when I went through it, Oklahoma sits within the top 8 of the SEC with big men in the defensive trenches. Offensively, we have one of the bigger offensive lines in the SEC as well. We're in the 300 range in average. I think we average 311 pounds on the offensive line. And so the defensive line, from 290 up, we got over 10 players in there. And you got young players. David Stone is up there. He's in the 290s, right? You've got, Devon Sears. He's getting up there in the 290s. You've got Marcus Strong in the 290s. You just added David just not too long ago, the Southeast kid that just came from New Mexico. He's 310. You're adding a lot of players in size to have those bodies, and you've got players that can actually play. I think a Grayson Halton's going to get there. He's about 285. He needs about 3 or 4 Uncrustables, and he'll get you to that 290, 295 range. But this team is built with enough players in the trenches to be able to handle the SEC. So, I mean, Nick Saban's got his fears and whatnot. We watched this team push around, that totally SEC-ready Texas squad when we played them this past season. So, to me, I know that having the big bodies we have now, we are good to go. And so it's good to see that the newcomers on our squad, we've got some recognition there. I would have liked to have seen some recognition for like a Caden Woolard, coming in with almost double-digit sacks. Yeah, I think at 9.5 over there at Miami of Ohio. As y'all know, I've talked about him. He's one of the guys that I consider that's going to be a big-time sleeper, but, it's okay. We understand that not all of your G5 guys called up are going to get the same love and attention as other ones out there. And so the good thing for Oklahoma is that we've got the body. So y'all should be excited about that. We know what to expect this coming season from Oklahoma. We know that defensively we should be one of the tops, and I'm hoping that they make that happen there. So Sooners making the playoffs? And a Sooner leader just did something really, really cool. Let's talk about it on the other side here on Locked On Sooners. You started to talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. But hey, we got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 weeks free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. That is right. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel any time. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked on to download America's #1 sports book. After a long day of work, do you ever feel like cooking? I'm going to be honest, I don't. With the traveling I have to do for my kids, with their sporting events, from volleyball to soccer to basketball, and just day-to-day work, it's really hard to find time to really to build and create a home-cooked meal for my family. Even meal prepping that gets exhausting. But that's the thing I love about Factor, right? Factor provides you with a menu of chef-created meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitians approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. And that's why I pointed out with my kids. If I'm going to build some world-class athletes, they need to be having food in their system that is true fuel and not stopping to get a whole bunch of junk food on a regular basis. And the good thing for them is they can grab these anytime, put them in the microwave for 2 minutes, and boom, enjoy themselves a nice, thorough meal after practice or even after a game. And sometimes after school. I've seen them do that. So you should check it out. They provide all kinds of delicious meals from breakfast to desserts. We did the breakfast egg bowls, skillets, and man, with the potatoes, chef kiss. So head over to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50. That's the number 50, and use code lockedoncollege50, the number 50, to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code lockedoncollege50 at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next meal while your subscription is active. Check them out in the link in the description below. College football is back, and it's not too late to catch up before the season kicks off. SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, you can get all that from Locked On stable of college experts by subscribing to Locked On College Football Podcast. Who has a chance to make the playoffs? What teams will cause chaos in their new conference? Maybe the Sooners. Everything you need to know all in one place. Be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On College Football Podcast, part of the Locked On College Podcast Network, your team every day. And so we had not one, but two college football analysts that are kind of preaching a little bit of the gospel for us. I'm going to say it that way. No, we have a couple of analysts who have actually mentioned there's a chance that Oklahoma could possibly make it to a playoffs. Now, I know some of y'all jumped on me when I gave my prediction and said that I really think that Oklahoma could do it. It's okay. But others feel the same way. And so USA Today, as well as an ESPN analyst, both have said that have Oklahoma making it to the playoffs. Let's talk about the USA Today one first, because I think this one is the one that you'll probably get better. Eric Smith over at USA Today says this: one thing to expect is a heavy dose of SEC and Big Ten teams. This year's preseason forecast has 4 from the former and 3 from the latter. There's 2 from the ACC, an independent and group of 5 winner, and a Big 12 representative. Ooh. Oklahoma sets up to be an excellent case study in how people need to readjust evaluating teams beyond wins and loss records. The Sooners face 5 teams ranked in the top 15 of the coaches poll, with 3 of them on the road and 1 at a neutral site. A 9-3 record could likely be enough to overcome a 10-2 team without the same quality of wins. Look, with Oklahoma walking in with this schedule, we looked through it, right? We looked at the teams and where they were ranked. And the crazy part is, I mean, we face 6 teams in the top 25, more than anybody else in the SEC. And luckily with, the SEC bias, as they say, we have the opportunity, we're going to play them, and we have the opportunity to upset every single one of them. And if we do that, the ones ahead of us, there's going to be very hard to argue against Oklahoma getting in, even with that 9-3 record. And I totally get what he's saying. Now, me personally, I said Oklahoma's going to go 10-3. I said Oklahoma was going to go ahead and win completely outright, right? I said Oklahoma's going to go out there and do the thing that we like for them to do, and that's win the SEC conference. I know. It's a lot much to say this early, but at the same time, it's not something that's just that ridiculous. I do think that Oklahoma has a really good chance. All the Sooners have to do is show up and show out. And if they continue to play the way that we expect, I anticipate we'll get that lucky. Now, the other thing that has populated with all of this is that for Oklahoma is that ESPN analysts on the game on, Saturday, Florida State versus Georgia Tech. All the college game day guys made their picks for the college football playoff, and Desmond Howard had Oklahoma making it to the playoffs. I know. Be nervous. Be afraid. Be weirded out. Because if there's one person we don't trust, it's going to be Desmond Howard. I'm just going to be keeping it honest because Desmond has kind of a track record. He has a record of things not, lining up the same way. And so because of that, we're going to see if Oklahoma can do what they need to do to show that Desmond Howard was right. Now, from that USA Today article, Eric Smith stated that this is where he thinks Oklahoma will land, which would be at about, he expects them to play against Notre Dame in the first round, which that was a little bit more interesting. I would have never expected him to say that Oklahoma would will play in that round, but he has Oklahoma playing first round at Notre Dame in South Bend. And then he has Oklahoma winning that game, which would lead them to have to play against Ohio State in the quarterfinals. And so from there, he thinks Ohio State wins, goes into the quarterfinal, the semis, and then they play into the championship game from there, right? And he has Georgia going against Ohio State. So for me, my prediction of Oklahoma making it to the playoffs, they would have to get that bye week because I can totally see Oklahoma winning the conference. But, that's just me. The homerism in me. Actually, not even really homer. I have my reasons, and I'm going to put together a video that's going to drop on Friday morning to really talk in detail why I have that. So you can definitely keep your eyes out for that. And me and John will talk about that on Friday's episode as well. But there's one more cool thing that happened, and I want to close the show out to is we saw some leadership happen in the locker room there at Oklahoma. So OU dropped a video on the social media account over on the Xbird, and it was Danny Stutsman speaking to his teammates. He was talking to them and, all of that jazz. And what he did was, which was really cool, he was talking to the walk-ons, and he thanked them for being with the team and let them know, sometimes you may feel like you're not recognized, but we recognize you and we appreciate you. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for you all because you all are a part of what makes us who we are. And he's right. Walk-ons are critical because they really help sharpen that iron, especially if you can get good ones. And he went through that line and talked to them. And so he let them know that he's taking a portion of his NIL as well as a JBL care package, and he's giving it to every single walk-on, and it's in their locker as we speak. Probably one of the coolest things, man. Your boy got a little emotional hearing that because that's just a massive gesture and a cool, humbling thing, right? Just not only shows the leadership of Stutsman, shows how humble of a human being he is, shows him being raised very well, and at the same time, it really shows the coolness of NIL and how we've seen this happen time after time. You're seeing these guys that get these nice NIL deals take care of their teammates. This happens so often, and people, in a way, overlook it. They pretend like they don't see it, but we see it. We see these players taking care of each other, and it's the coolest thing in the world. And so, Stutsman, I salute you. I had to rock the shirt. Go find one and support him. Support everything he's doing because he's taking what he's getting and he's taking care of his teammates. I love to see that. And yeah, that just warms my heart and makes me feel good that we've got players like that on the team. So thank y'all for pulling up to Locked On Sooners. You're here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My first time going solo. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On College Football Podcast, from NIL deals to never-ending conference alignment rumors. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link on Locked On College Football in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll of course be back on Friday as we prepare to look at Temple. We'll break it down and dive into what could potentially happen on Friday. So for my co-host, John Williams, you can follow him, John9 Williams, on the Xbird. I am Jay Smith. Follow me at Unfair Sports. This is Locked On Sooners. We will chop it up with all of you tomorrow. And Boomer Sooner.